This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Some things are just better together, like party playlists and Friday nights, campfires and ghost stories, peanut butter and chocolate. And Reese's Cups are the perfect combination of creamy peanut butter and delicious milk chocolate. So, when you want something sweet, you can't do better than Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Buy Reese's today wherever candy is sold.
In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks and a battle for the heart, soul, and direction of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. You can watch these incredible sports stories like Quarterback, F1 Drive to Survive, Untold, and many more now on Netflix.
Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
Serie A Chronicles is a Mia Chronicles production.
Yeah, it has been great soap opera drama. I mean, this weekend, the football was bonkers this weekend, Mina. I mean, you thought we'd sort of got off to a start on Saturday with Inter imploding at the end against Monza in a game they should have won. I mean, look, they should have gone 3-1 up. There was a premature whistle, a goal that should have stood when you saw the replays of it. Doesn't happen. I understand why they're angry about it. But
yeah,
they then blow it at the end and you think, wow, like literally, like just like Acerbi said last week when they beat Napoli, doesn't mean nothing if we don't beat Monza. Well, they didn't beat Monza. And then on Sunday, we get both Rome clubs from sort of opposite directions involved in games where one team is up 2-0 after the 80th minute and they both end in 2-2 draws. It was a bonkers weekend to me now, and I don't actually know sort of in the end almost like which one is like the sort of biggest one to start with. I guess probably it's, I mean, I don't know if you agree, but Milan Roma seems like the most impactful.
Ecco il cross tagliato dentro di Armadic dalla Luciano
I guess when you look at some of the defending that's going on, you know, and the ability to really just play dirty when it's required, that is a little bit worrying for me. It's like you have to read the game at the end of the day and you have to do what you can to make sure that teams don't manage these comebacks, especially when it's not in a number of minutes. And it's a little bit like, this is not my Serie A. This is not the Serie A that I knew growing up. I've never witnessed, there's always been drama and obviously this happens, but it's a little bit like it's crazy what Lazio is doing. It's crazy how Milan let go of that, you know, and it's quite shocking. So I would say, yes, that was probably like Milan-Roma was the game that I felt disappointment throughout the whole entire match. I mean, this was a very interesting game, and actually I think we should probably start there. So Milan go 2-0 up, and I'm sitting there watching 40 minutes of minimum 40, if not like 42 minutes of the first half was basically all Milan. It was controlling possession, dominating, creating chances, you know. Obviously don't score goals, but it's just them just having a great time controlling, especially with Bennacer in the middle. I mean, I think he's just so fantastic to watch all the time. I think we'll get on to him a little bit later. Second half starts pretty much the same. There was a point where I was like, I can't watch this anymore. It's so dull. Like I was so disappointed because I genuinely had been really looking forward to this match. I thought this was going to be very interesting. I personally had thought that this would be a game that would be over 2.5 goals, you know, both sides scoring, a little bit of action, a little bit drama. And I was annoyed that Roma, with everything that they do have, with Dybala back, with Tammy Abraham, weren't going to do more. And then Bennacer comes off and Giroud comes off. And unfortunately, some of those substitutions were needed and they did. And the alternatives, didn't produce what we thought. And you could see there's perhaps a lack of squad depth. You could say whatever it is, but Roma have been the side that have been brilliant to watch from set pieces, right? I mean, 10 goals of their 21 goals come from set pieces. That is a 45% average. I mean, that's ridiculous. And then to concede twice in 7 minutes like that, it angered me so much that I don't know whether I was proud of Roma or so destroyed at Milan, if that makes sense. I was like, I don't understand how you do this. And I don't understand how Pioli could have allowed this to happen, but obviously it's not like all his fault. And I can't believe Roma, who didn't do anything for 85 minutes, didn't have a single shot on target till the 87th, managed to pull it off and get a point. I don't know whether to applaud them or be angry with them that they didn't show up until the very end, and maybe they could have actually won this match.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, it was like, it's not new, is it? Like when we get a big game with Jose Mourinho in it, this is like decades old information. You sort of expect to see him not be overly adventurous, to use that low block and to camp out a bit. But it just felt so lifeless, and it's one thing to set up and to do that. Like, we're not going to push you. We're not going to press you. But then just to keep doing it when you're 1-0 down in the second half, and then you can see the second goal and you just think, okay, like there's no reaction, there's no nothing.
No.
And it wasn't even like before that first goal, oh wow, they're knocking the door down, like it's coming. It was just, oh, here's a corner. Oh, wait, they've scored. Like it was just like, oh, that's come out of nowhere. And then it happened again. And there's sort of stories within the story. Of course, I mean, Ibanez was basically the man at fault on both of the 2 goals they conceded, and he's the one who scores the header that turns things back in their direction. I think all of our English listeners, those who think Tammy Abraham should have gone to the World Cup, well, he had a pretty miserable first half of the season, but so far in like not even 2 games, he played 30 minutes against Bologna, but the last 2 games, he's basically had the decisive contribution in both of them because he headed off the line to stop Roma from dropping points against Bologna on Wednesday, and then he scores the winner here, which is, I mean, it's a weird goal because it's a well-taken volley by Abraham. You've got to react quickly to that coming at you at close range. But actually the header before from Matic, he's not just like a little bit unmarked, Mina. He's just like, here's Nemanja Matic, the sort of famously slow Nemanja Matic, who's also not small and therefore not someone you'd think would get lost in the middle of the area, just on his own, just unmarked. And if his header had been better, then I guess Abraham wouldn't have been required. It was strange. It was really strange. And you're right. You mentioned it about Roma. Roma are extremely good at set pieces and at converting them. They have got a lot of them this season. Although when we talk about those percentages, part of the reason they've got such a big percentage of goals scored from set pieces is because they don't score from open play. So it's like that's the only way they're going to hurt you sometimes. And for Milan to get caught out like that twice, it's really bad. It's really bad for Milan if they're a team that aspires to win the league, I think.
Well, this is, I think, the problem. And is firstly is that that about Roma. You know that firstly from open play, they're not that interesting to watch. We obviously have noticed the problems that happen with Zaniolo. We know that a lot of the time they're not deadly. This is actually a recurring theme at the moment in Serie A. I mean, bad defending, which 24 goals conceded by Inter, 18 conceded by Milan in 17 matches. If you are trying to win the Scudetto, this is not the way to go, right? And certainly not the way that they did this when they won the Scudetto. They had the best defense. So I'm a little bit shocked by this, but at the same time, it's important to note that there are absences. And so I understand that Pioli can't, he's trying to stretch the squad as much as possible. And sometimes it doesn't work out. And I do get that. But there's another point here, which is you dominated possession. I mean, they had 70% of the possession in the first half. Lots of shots. And what worries me about these two sides is that, Inter and Milan, is that a lot of the opportunities are being wasted up front. And then when you combine that with a bad defense, this is where the problems are happening. And it's almost like these teams are so brilliant, but, they're so interesting to watch, so well prepared tactically. And then there's this major flaw, which is we'll create 100, we'll score maybe 1 or 2. and then concede those two because we're not actually very attentive at the back. And this is where you're having this crazy roller coaster of a ride because you don't feel that you can rely on them at all. You don't know what's going to happen between, a Monza side or a Roma side. It could be a big team, it could be a small team. You don't feel safe right now watching either side play. And that is one thing that I think has been a recurring theme. And I just feel like either you figure out how to actually be a little bit more effective going forward and scoring the opportunities that you do create, or figure out how to shore up that defense. But it's got to be one or the other. And these major flaws are just ruining everything when it comes to watching it.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get to Juventus. I mean, it's classically Allegri's sort of comment. He said it before, like the best defense wins Serie A. I mean, I'm not talking about he said it 5 minutes ago. I'm talking about he said this during previous winning runs at Juventus when he was proving it. And I haven't checked this in a while, so I off the top of my head, I'm not sure if I'd be right for the last few seasons, but I know that a few seasons ago I went and had a look through it, and it was something like 8 or 9 out of 10 of the previous seasons, the team that conceded the fewest goals did win Serie A. So like there is a strong correlation there. Now, you can go too far with correlation because
the only team that won it without doing that was in fact Sarri's Juve, I believe.
There you go. And I think you can go too far with that correlation because often actually, if you look at it, the team that has conceded the lowest goals and won the league, I think in a lot of those seasons had also scored the most goals. So like a lot of the times you just had very dominant teams that were just doing both, that were just better than everyone.
That's true.
So like it can be a little bit sort of too simplistic just to hone in on that. But this is a good way, I would say, to not win leagues is to, when you're in positions that are winning positions, to not win games. Whatever else is or isn't the big picture. This was a game that Milan had won at 2-0 up. They had won this game. They just had to see it out and they didn't. And of course, there's individual sort of stories within that. I think no question losing Mike Maignan for so much this season has been a huge blow. Mike Maignan has been, when he arrived at Milan, was a hugely impactful player, not just for the saves he made actually, but for how much he contributed to distribution. Tatarusanu is not as good, but it doesn't change this story in this game. This game was a game you had won and you didn't win it. You just threw it away.
Well, I guess the other question that I have on this topic is that there are absences for Milan and we have to recognize those. Is this a case of, at the end of the day, this is the best that we can expect until they have, a better squad and perhaps better replacements, so that when you do take off Benazer or you do take off Giroud, you feel like the players that can come on can make the difference? Or is this a case of, I don't know, because, I watch Spalletti and I feel like he's just made every single player in Napoli amazing to bring on. You don't ever feel that there is a second squad, like the whole squad's brilliant. Whichever sub comes on makes the difference most often than not. And so is this a case of, like Pioli's not doing enough with these squad players? But obviously, it's really hard to get people on the same level as Benazer, right? Or on the same level as Giroud with all his experience. So do they just need, is it a market question? Or is it a case of, we know obviously that there's problems there if you're conceding this many goals, especially last minute goals. So there's problems there that he has to respond to, Stefano Pioli.
I think some depth would certainly not go amiss. And I think, for instance, if we're going to talk about the centre-back position specifically, has Matteo Gabbia really pushed on in the way that people weren't hoping he would? And if not, then have you got enough depth centre-back? It's funny, Mina, because I think instinctively, think about where they were on the way to winning the league title. It was a complete shortage of centre-backs. Kalulu comes in to play centre-back and it comes together and it works. Funnily enough, I think between Kalulu and Tomori right now, I think Tomori is more the problem than Kalulu, and that's not a great place to be. I'm not making a damning indictment of Tomori as a footballer because I think he's a great footballer. I just think he's not been as good this season as last season. And I can't give you a complete explanation of that. There's always lots of things that go on, but he just hasn't. It's just sort of visible, I guess. You can see that he's not as good as last season. And so depth would help. Having more options would help. In the long run, maybe part of developing a young footballer is to say, well, we're going to stick through it because Kalulu and Tomori can be your partnership for years, right? If you keep that partnership together, it can be there for years. And maybe sometimes you just have to say, well, part of learning is messing up and this is a learning experience. But if you want to win the league, you can't throw away 2-goal leads against teams that are not easy to beat and you had beat. I just keep going back to that, Mina. Like, we can talk about squad depth. We can talk about what helped them in the long run. I think Napoli's squad depth is a massive asset to them this season. But this weekend specifically, I can't bring myself to make a big narrative out of, oh, it was the squad depth, it was this, it was that. You had won this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Easily,
frankly. Like, Roma were not in this game until the final 3 minutes. So it's not a big sort of picture story for me. That's a you messed up this game story.
Can Roma make top 4?
I don't know what to make of them after this game because I didn't think they were good for most of it.
Well, this is precisely it. I do think they've been good for a long time. And this inability, like, actually, the 10 out of 21 goals doesn't impress me. It makes me feel worried about their inability to create from open play. Does that make sense? You know, I don't look at this and I think, oh, wow, what a fabulous team from set pieces. One of the things that I take from that is how bad everyone is at actually defending them, but also that, you know, why are you not doing enough from open play? Why are you not doing everything you can to create a little bit of danger? And to sit back and not do it until the end is very opportunistic. And you know, don't get me wrong, I love opportunistic teams, but it angers me because I think Rome is better than this. So I think that's where it all really stems from. Become a member at patreon.com/Serie A Chronicles for regular bonus episodes and content.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Capture the spirit of the holidays like never before with Rockbrook Camera, Nebraska and Western Iowa's premier camera store since 1975. Rockbrook Camera has the latest cameras and lenses, so you can preserve precious memories and learn new photography skills that will last a lifetime. Let the knowledgeable photography pros at Rockbrook Camera show you how to take great pictures of family traditions, the kids' sporting events, and the kids' big holiday musical. Rockbrook Camera is always ready to help with amazing customer support. Join one of their photo classes to learn the best tips and order a beautiful, custom-made gift from their photo lab. Capture the beauty and majesty of winter's snowy landscapes. Be prepared for holiday gatherings and be ready to capture all the family fun. Visit Rockbrook Camera today, 1 block south of 168th and West Center in Omaha, 70th and Pioneers in Lincoln, or online at rockbrookcamera.com. Rockbrook Camera. Great photography begins here.